The Women's Intercontinental Championship Tournament is now underway. So, yes, another wrestling belt has been added to the WWE roster, which will be contested for on Raw to match the Women's US title belt that'll be contested on SmackDown. The women's roster is, I didn't count them, I think it's around 15 women on Raw and 15 on SmackDown. Somewhere it averages out to around that. There's 15 women with, if let's lump the tag titles together, 3 separate championships to go for.
Too many.
Yeah.
Too many. It really is. See, with the girls, it's like anything else. You got to tell a story in there somewhere. I mean, they got a couple stories going on, but it's not as in-depth as the men. And most of these girls don't have the experience that the guys have, because you don't have a Charlotte Flair there anymore. Who's the girl? Becky who?
Lynch.
What's her name? Becky Lynch is out. And these are your experienced women, your experienced talent. And when you take those out, now you're going to replace them with talent that's not as experienced, and creative is limited to who they have. So I think having too many belts. I mean, how many belts do you think would be sufficient for the 2 shows?
Ooh, well,
2 tag belts and no more than 2 singles.
2 tag belts? I mean, well, I'll give you what this is now.
No, one tag belt for each team.
Yeah, absolutely. Raw and SmackDown have a staggering 14 titles just between those 2 shows. That includes...
Because they're devaluing the other belts.
Yeah, exactly. But also, like, what are these speed belts? I understand there can't be too many people who care about whoever is the WWE Speed Champion. And there's a women's version of the Speed Champion. What
is that? You got 2 minutes?
Yeah, you've got 3 minutes. They're like 3-minute matches. They're only online. They're not on TV, these matches. They're all like social media or whatever exclusives. There's 14. Then if you add in the NXT belts, there's 20 separate titles floating around 3 different brands.
Well, that's a battle you can't win. You either got to focus on 1 per show or 2 per show, especially singles, because you can't be talking about, oh, this girl comes out. If everybody's got a belt, nobody's got a belt. Basically, is the way I look at it. Hey, let's put emphasis on this belt, or let's put emphasis on this one. You can't do it. It's almost like having a NASCAR race, and every one of them is some kind of a champion or something. Who's it? I don't know. I don't get it. But that, to me, they're fighting a battle they can't win.
Okay, let's call it. You've got a roster of 40 people, a fairly major company. How many belts? Obviously a world title or a heavyweight title or whatever, but how many belts would you have?
No more than 2.
Singles.
Because now we can concentrate on it. If you got, like, I don't know, 30 guys, they're all talking about these 1 or 2 belts. And then finally you ended up with the 2 champions going at each other. And I never liked one guy having 2 belts, but he could at one time. But he'd have to relinquish 1, because what's the other guy's going to do? The guy could only defend 1 belt, but he could probably defend 2 belts at one time for a while anyway. But at least it's narrowed down and you can concentrate on it.
I'm trying to think of like some of the territories that had loads of belts. I know Memphis had a few. Was it Dallas WCCW that had like a brass knuckles title and then like a trios title, and like in the early WCW days when I think you were still there were trios titles, and a couple of years beforehand the Western States Heritage title, and all sorts of the US tag team titles and the regular tag team titles. There were tons in WCW and NWA in the 80s, early 90s.
Well, I wish I'd have had the contract of making the belts for them.
Yeah.
And I tell you, that's a big business right now, just buying a belt. I looked at the WWE website the other day. You can buy the belts. How much are they? Like $500 or something? But they're nice looking belts.
Yeah, I've
They
got one
they
behind
they.
me somewhere.
So is that what they are? Like $400 or $500?
Oh, I got mine at discount, but yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Oh,
But then they've
a
got.
disc.
Of
You're
course,
Irish, aren't you? You're not English. You're Irish, aren't you?
I might as well be. Yeah. No, I
Uh,
like a bargain, brother.
I don't blame you, but hey, just too many is too much. Let me. It means you can't focus on the ones you really want to focus on because they all run together. What's about? No, everybody's got one.
Well, we're going to talk more about belts. AEW, we might as well throw them in there, has 8 active titles on the main roster, including 3 mid-card titles. They're all about the same. There's like the TNT, and then there's the Continental, and then there's the third one. They're all mid-card belts. Then they've got trio titles and 2
let me
women's.
ask you something. Let's take WWE. What singles title comes to mind right away?
The world. Or heavyweight, whatever you want to call it.
All right. What is that?
The top singles title.
And what's the second one that comes to mind?
You see, I'd always say Intercontinental, but then there's a counterpart with the US title on the other brand.
Okay. What does Gunther have?
The World, which is the secondary World Championship. Unless
But
you count when the WWE Universal whatever blah 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 Championship was at one point 2 belts, so therefore the Raw World title was the 3rd belt at one point. Then they sort of combined the 2 that Cody Rhodes has into one now.
well, even though we can pinpoint the problem is they have too many belts, they'll work this out, and they'll eventually just stop using the underneath belts, what's called underneath, and they'll get down to at least 3. Get down to 3 belts that they can concentrate on, and I think that's too many. I think you need a tag team, and you don't need more than one tag team title.
Oh God, no.
I mean, and I think no more than 2 singles titles on either show. They used to have what do you call a middleweight title, a light heavyweight title.
Cruiserweight, whatever you are, yeah.
I
See,
never
what do you think about the? Oh, you don't like them? I was going to say, what do you think of weight division belts then? Because in World of Sport,
But
British
they
wrestling,
can't
there
hold.
was nothing but weight belts.
Yeah, they don't concentrate on that because what's the guy that just joined the Bloodline? What's his name? The big guy.
Oh, Bronson Reed.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen guys as big as him almost go for a damn welterweight title or a middleweight title. But wait a minute.
Oh,
I thought
the X Division. Yeah, no one ever knew what the X Division was in TNA. Everyone thought it was a cruiserweight belt, and then Samoa Joe won it.
The only thing that I really liked about the cruiserweight or the X division is Bubba Ray Dudley weighing in, trying trying to make weight for that TNA X Division title. Oh, it was hilarious. And they just kept pushing the deal and he kept pushing it back. but it was entertaining and it was funny because Bubba's entertaining anyway. If he just goes out there and just talks off the top of his head, he's funny as hell.
We should get him on. I've never spoke to Bubba.
Oh, you never spoke to him?
No,
Great. Oh, somebody send me his number. I don't have his number. I would like to have him on, really.
Right, as I was saying, AEW currently has 8 active titles. If you add Ring of Honor's belts, there's another 7 on top of that, so that's 15, and that doesn't include...
Okay, let me ask you something.
Yes.
Who watches Ring of Honor?
Nobody. Nobody watches Ring of Honor.
Let me ask you, where is it on?
Nowhere.
I've never even seen it ever.
It's like on the app. It's a Ring of Honor app.
So you got to go online to watch their show.
No, you've got to sign up. You've got to pay money to watch the Ring of Honor show that 10 or
Really?
20,000 people pay for, and that's it.
Well, that eliminates at least 5 wrestlers.
Mhm.
It eliminates me, Mick Foley,
Rip Rogers.
Rip Rogers, and Randy Savage, if he was still with us. It eliminates him. And I'll think of another one that notoriously cheap. I can't think of his name now.
So there's another 7 belts there, and that doesn't include any Mexican belts or Japanese belts that migrate over to AEW over time to time. And then here's something else I wanted to mention. MJF had the AEW Dynamite Diamond Ring, which was another pseudo title that got stolen.
What is that?
It's almost like the WCW King. What did they have? WCW did the same thing. It meant nothing. Anyway, the point is that the actual ring legitimately got stolen when it was when they were in London for Wembley 2.
When you say ring, it's a ring you put on your finger. Yeah. That got stolen.
That got stolen, and I thought, maybe they might use that as an excuse to get rid of it. No, they made another one. And then they sort of half tried to bring it into storyline that Daniel Garcia had stolen it. And then, anyway, forget about it. I'll say one more thing, we'll move on. Paul Heyman, when asked about multiple titles, said recently, "I'm not a big fan of a multitude of titles unless you can give them enough time," Heyman said. "We had proper focus at the time on the championships that we held and didn't feel that we needed more championships to tell better stories, and felt that, therefore, the introduction of more championships only waters down the championships that we already had the spotlight on at the moment." Is it just sort of like an easy out? Oh, well, we can't think of a decent storyline for this, so they can fight for a belt instead.
No, it's too many. It is just too many. You only got so many stories, and you can't repeat the same story in the same angle on the same show. So, I mean, there's ways around that, but it gets complicated. And the best way is direct. Just go straight to the issue. This guy's going to challenge this guy for this title. But if the title means something, that makes it jump out at you. But unless it does, I know it's a crapshoot anyway. It may work, it may not work. But let's go. The art of simplicity. Let's just go simple and easy as it goes, and see how that works out. If not, you change it, because booking is always in a state of turmoil anyway. It's always changing and changing and changing. I mean, if you went in, say we went in for a booking meeting and we sat down, we may change that whole thing by the time we get up 2 hours later. The whole card is changed because all of a sudden, whoop, this is stupid, and this won't go, and this won't work, and change this guy and move him out and move this guy up. And hey, let's change that main event. I've been in a lot of meetings like that. You go in, sometimes you have even different people on the card that you didn't have before in place of the people you took out. So it's according to the mood of that day of the creative team and the vibe in the room. It can change at the drop of a hat.